Happy New Year, and thank you for joining us today for the AIME Women's Mortgage Network's Growth Series. This series is here for you to educate, inspire, and share your progress as we lift each other up to new levels. On today's show, we have 3 WMN members who are going to share with us how you can become and thrive in your local community market and be an expert. Let's meet our panel. From Mississippi, we have Michelle Dugan, the broker owner of MS Lending. From Florida, we have Ashley Bedford, a loan officer at Patriot Home Funding. And from Connecticut, we have Joanne Johansson, the broker owner of Platinum Mortgage Solutions. Ladies, thank you so much for being with us today. I'm excited for this episode because sometimes we think there's only one way to do something, but there always is more than one once you realize there's multiple paths you can choose, one that works best for your strengths and your business. All 3 of you do not buy leads. You primarily work off referrals or grassroots marketing strategies. So let's jump right in and get started with reviewing how you market and connect to your local community. Michelle, please share with us.
Hey, good morning, Laura. Thanks for having all of us. So I am really connected in my community. So I live and work in the same community that I grew up in. So that's helpful because I know a lot of people here. But I'm really involved in a lot of local charities and different organizations. I try to get as involved as I can in my kids' school and meet all the parents on all the baseball teams or gymnastics or wherever we may be. I always like to let everybody in my community know who I am, what I do, if it's someone that I don't know. What I really focus on too is social media. So I've always had a really strong presence on social media, and it's something that I focused on for probably the last 5 years, just really intensely making sure that my marketing efforts there were not missed by my audience that I'm connected with. So I try to connect with everybody I know on social media. I tend to stay pretty tapped out on my friends list because that's where a lot of people are these days, especially in my age group. And so I get on there. I don't talk about work all the time. In fact, lately I've had to taper down talking about work because I've been so busy that it's hard. Whenever I do talk about mortgages, I get an influx of inquiries and stuff into my inbox. So that's really for me, what I do to stay the most connected is using social media to help grow my business without being pushy about it. I'll talk about mortgages, but I don't just put out rates and mortgage information all day, every day to turn people off. So.
Okay, so let's go backwards a little bit. Okay, so you said
Sure.
Whoever you run into, whether it's at the kids' schools, whether it's at, and let's talk pre-COVID, at the baseball games, at the soccer games, whatever. Okay, so when you're speaking to me, how do you do that, right? Let's get tactical in terms of how do you start those conversations without sounding like you're selling something? And then the second question is, on the social media, everyone thinks you magically wake up one day and you have 4,000 connections. We all know that's not the case. But when it's a consumer side, how do you actually connect to them? Like, do you become friends with them outside of social media first and then connect? So let's dive into that a little bit.
So as far as the in-person conversations, I live in a really small, suburban area, and everybody around here is always looking for ways to connect with other people. I think it's something about the South. And so one of the first questions people will have is oh, where do y'all live? And so then they'll want to know what neighborhood we live in. We'll talk about that. Oh, what do you do? What does your husband do? And anytime somebody asks me what I do, I'm going to, of course, tell them, oh, I own a mortgage brokerage in Ridgeland. If you're looking for, if you're ever looking to refinance or buy or anything, please give me a call. And then that tends to open up questions from a lot of people. Lately, it's been really easy because I'm like, hey, I'm sure I can probably save you some money on that mortgage if you want to, pay for more dance lessons. So it's that conversation. I think I've been doing it so long that it just kind of flows off of my tongue at this point. Sometimes it may sound salesy, but I don't think I'm ever over the top pushy about anything. And so I usually just joke around about it a little bit and kind of lessen any pressure that people may feel from it. Because there's definitely those people that are like, hey, I'm a broker, I want to help you, what can I do, and I don't take that approach really to any part of my business. So and then as far as social media, so it took me a little bit to kind of open up my mind to social media and all of the potential that existed there. And so I had this business coach years and years ago, and he was like, listen, you have to take your profile off of private. You've got to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone, talk about things that you may not talk about on there. So a lot of the people that I connect with on there are people that I've met in real life. And then if I see someone in our area that's also doing a lot on social media, or if I notice that it's a new real estate agent, or if it's a title company or something, I'll connect with people on there, even if I haven't met them yet, just because we are kind of so small town. And usually we will have heard each other's names and things like that. So I'm not afraid to send a friend request if I don't know somebody, and I'll certainly accept a friend request if I don't know somebody too, to try to connect on that business level. But I'm not going to just accept them from anybody at this point, because my friend list has gotten so limited. So I'll make sure that we do have connections, and like, who is this person? Is it just some creeper trying to get on my profile, or is this somebody that I actually do want to truly be connected with, possibly in the future?
And do you find one social media platform better than another, or are they all pretty much, you can get one type from one and jump to another for something different?
I think for me personally, Facebook is what has always been the most useful for me. That's where I've always kind of concentrated my efforts. But I think that it's really like anything, and that the more you water it, the more it will grow. So
Right.
if you spend your time on Instagram, I think that's where you're going to get the most business from. If you spend your time on Facebook, that's where you'll get the most business from. But it's also figuring out how to plug in. So I'm in a lot of like mom groups locally. And when people come in and say, hey, I need a mortgage, there's a lot of people that'll tag and post, my information, just because we're already connected outside of that group. So that's been super helpful, is just to connect where you want to, like with the people that you want to work with. If you play a lot of tennis, join local tennis boards, make sure they know you're the local mortgage person. If you have a dog and you're a dog lover, make sure, and you're in dog groups, make sure they know you're the local mortgage person.
I love that. And that really is great advice to start. And on that note, let's slip right down to Ashley. Now, the great thing is, like I said, is that you ladies all have a different approach. So this is fantastic, because regardless of what you're comfortable with, one of you are going to connect. So Ashley, please tell us, how are you connecting with your local community?
I'm very involved in church. I donate to a lot of local charities and get involved with them. I love people all the time, no matter where we're at, what we're doing. I love to be around people. So I go to every event that I possibly can, even if I don't know people. I love to get involved in people's lives. I also use Facebook. My daughter, my 14-year-old, says that I'm old and I need to move to Instagram, but I'm just not there.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll get there. I get involved in my daughter's school. One of my daughters goes to our church for school, so that's easier. And I also post on Facebook about mortgages, not a lot. I tend to use my business page a lot less than my personal page, because just like Michelle, people when they get involved in your life, those relationships build. Okay. And I go a little step further, and I actually text every single borrower almost for their birthday, and even home anniversary. Thank goodness for some of these CRMs that remind you. But I use that and that personal touch. And a lot of times when I do that, they're like, oh, hey, I've been meaning to call you about refinancing. So just kind of staying top of mind. Like I said, I love going to all parties. So I don't tend to have.
So Ashley, so let me ask you exactly the same question I asked Michelle. So you love people, you're, with the church, you probably know the congregation, yeah. But let's say other things where you don't know the people. What's your approach? Because everybody has a different style. How do you connect and let everyone know that you're there to help them with their mortgage?
So almost all the time, even in Florida, where it's not quite a small town, somebody's asking you, what do you do for a living? And I tell them, oh, I'm a mortgage broker. They're like, oh, well, what is that? Even if they don't know. Or, oh, I've been looking to refinance. Can you help me with that? And I just, again, tell them what I do. I don't push. I figure I'll get the clients that I'm supposed to get. And I love to build those relationships with them. And I learn about their dog's name, their grandkid's name, all of that. So I just really love people. So.
Well, I love that you're sharing that, because this is where I always say, I think women in the mortgage industry have an advantage. There is just something about when we sincerely wish someone a happy birthday or remember their grandchildren's names or their dogs' names. I mean, whatever it is, it just comes across so sincere and loving and caring. And I think as women, we have a leg up, I think, personally, in the industry because of that. So that is phenomenal advice. And I love that you're connecting. And I think it is very important that you can tell that you truly want to help people. And I think that's what comes across to have those people come to you. Love that. All right, Joanne, you tell us about how you handle becoming that community expert.
Becoming that community expert. So I am also live in a very small town. My office is about 3 blocks from my home, so I can actually walk to work. So I'm involved in the chamber here in Connecticut. It's called the Quinnipiac Chamber, and also the Rotary here. And I'm in a lot of. We have a Wallingford magazine, which is a publication all about the town. A lot of businesses in the town or in the magazine. So I've been running a half a page ad in that magazine since I've been open. So I've been in the industry for 25 years, but since my business has been open, about 4 years. So I definitely have that brand recognition. Here local, well, on Facebook, we have Positively Wallingford, which is a Facebook group, and everything and anything about Wallingford is on there. So if someone is asking about mortgages, like so many of my clients will tag me. And that's awesome because it's right on our local page and a lot of people see that. And I didn't really think that much of it in the beginning because I'm old and I just thought, but I always ask, when people call me, if they're not referred from a realtor, where they got my name. And gosh, when they say Positively Wallingford or Google, I just think that's the most amazing thing because it's free and, you're not paying for it. Just, I think Positively Wallingford and the magazine kind of go hand in hand. They see my name coming up quite frequently. To answer your question that you've asked Michelle and Ashley, my kids will say, I've never met a stranger. So you're like, how do you meet? Well, I am that person that walks by people on the street and says, good morning, happy new year, hi. My kids sometimes are mortified. They're like, do you know? Oh, I don't know them yet, but I will.
Mom, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Exactly. So I think, like Michelle, being embedded in the community, I don't have young children, but I do have young grandchildren, and I use them 100%. I use them to, go to, PTO stuff. If any of the local schools are asking for donations for anything, I support it all.
Absolutely. So. That's great. And Joanne, you were telling us a story during the pre-call in regards to sponsoring a virtual art show. So that ties into the magazine. So can you share that story? Because I think that's a valuable story for the entire group to hear.
Just going along with the same theme of kind of being involved in everything and anything you can kind of get your hands on, the publisher of the Wallingford magazine contacted me and said, because of COVID, we're doing this virtual art show. Would you sponsor it? Would you be a sponsor? I'm like, sure. I don't know anything about art. Come to find out, the art studio that was sponsoring was literally at the top of my street. I never even knew it was there. I did see a little sign, but I thought it was just art classes. Anyway, I went there and it turned into, a beautiful event in the Wallingford magazine, which I had on my desk and I was going to show you, but I don't have it on my desk right now. And so I made a donation, and I was actually really surprised when it came out. I wasn't surprised, but I was excited to see Platinum Mortgage Solutions' name along with some larger companies here in town. And then part of the money went, as my son was a sponsor of one of the paintings, which he's very much into art and theater. So he loved that he was able to be a part of it. And it's just another community event where, you know, people see your name, they see your face on things. So it's interesting. I mean, I think it's a little bit easier when you're from a smaller town. I literally grew up in the town right next door. Most of the people that I went to school with moved from North Haven to Wallingford, so it's pretty easy. It was pretty
Right.
easy transition.
I love that. And that really is great. And I love that all of you guys have your own unique way of giving back to your communities, making yourself known. I mean, Joanne mentioned she gets excited when someone says they Googled and they found you and you popped up. I mean, think about that. We all know we are in the year 2021. If they can't find us online, we're a ghost. We're nowhere. Right? I mean, we have to be there because we know, you know, Ashley mentioned her 14-year-old. I mean, we know when your 14-year-old is about to buy a house, if they can't research the person they're doing business with and find all that information, they're probably not doing business with you. That's for sure. So we all know how valuable and important all of these steps are to make sure that you have that imprint, you know, on the digital side. All right. So going back to taking care of all these families that you guys are now connecting with, Ashley, I'm curious. Within your area, you know, with dealing with layoffs and difficulties that have happened because of COVID and forbearances, how are you giving back to providing your borrowers with reassurance and understanding what needs to happen in a forbearance or coming out of a forbearance as you're serving your community?
So regarding the forbearance, I did a live on this before as well, just with all of my people, because they didn't understand what a forbearance really was, you know? So just, I find education is key, because a lot of people don't realize that they've either got to modify or pay that lump sum. And let's be honest, most people that really need that modification or need that forbearance don't have the money to do that. So when it's really needed, of course, I tell them, and then I educate them on what the rules are in order to purchase or refinance in the future if they have to go through that. And then with layoffs, you know, I'm right here in Mickey Mouse world. And so a lot of that happened. I had a few people looking. I even had somebody refinancing when they got laid off. And then I just educated them, when you come back to work, we'll start your refi over again. So I kind of just left everything there. I told them what they'd qualify on based on their current employment status before the layoff. And then in 2 to 3 weeks after they went back, because we knew that a lot of people were going to go back to Disney after that. So just, I find education sets people's ease. They don't feel like it's a no forever. It's just, this is a temporary thing that we're going through right now in the world. So just putting them at ease, I find, is a lot better for people.
I think you're correct. And again, that's what all of you are. You're trusted advisors. You know, you're the experts. So you have to provide them that education because they look to you for that. And again, I think that's another advantage women have, is that when we're explaining it, we come about it in a nurturing way to be able to kind of hold their hand and guide them through that. So that's fantastic. Okay.
Laura, when COVID first hit and they started talking about forbearance, I did a couple of live Facebook posts, which I am 100% not comfortable doing, but I was so passionate that this forbearance was going to be such an issue. And I don't know about Michelle and Ashley, but I have had a couple of deals come across my desk of people who went into forbearance, and now we're feeling the repercussions of that. And every time I did a Facebook Live, I mean, I struggled, but I did it. And I would get calls or text messages from people saying, thank you so much. Ashley, you're right. It's all about education. People didn't know what it was. We were all scared, but as mortgage professionals, we knew that this forbearance was going to be a storm to be reckoned with, that, you know, we knew what it was going to look like at the other end. So hopefully people, we can get to those people. Maybe we need another Facebook Live. I don't know.
Probably. I think Michelle could hook you up on that one, right? Michelle, what are your thoughts on that? What have you done in regards to education and support of the community for all of these question marks?
I think the biggest thing, so like I said, I have to be kind of careful about how I post on social media, just because I can get really overwhelmed with business too quickly. And I've been building my team through all of this, but I'll admit I was not quite ready. I just started my brokerage the beginning of 2019. So I'm just under 2 years in. So I was not ready for the big hit, but anytime somebody reaches out or calls, of course, I'm going to let them, just listen to them, find out where they are, find out where they need to be. I think one of my favorite quotes is that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so in that situation, they literally are just looking for somebody that can give them good, correct advice, listen to them, give them some sort of hope. There's so many mortgage companies right now that you call them and they're like, oh, well, we can get back to you in 90 to 120 days. Just hang tight and we'll take care of you. Well, if they don't know that they're already in a forbearance or that they've been laid off or what their situation is, in 90 to 120 days, they're just going to have more disappointment in their life. So I think I just try to listen. And then, like I said, offer the best advice that I can for that individual borrower. Nobody is the same. And we can't just put out just blanket information and assume that everybody's going to be able to, fall under that umbrella.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And let's go back to Joanne doing the Facebook Lives. Our families out there don't want to read an ebook. Like, this is not the type of information where it's like, oh, here's a pamphlet, go read this ebook and figure it out. Not at all. What Michelle just said about listening, understanding their personal situation, and then being able to guide them and adding your own take and your own personality into it, that's what they need. That's Absolutely. Where a true professional, that's where brokers can provide that, versus, well, here's an ebook, go read it, and good luck. Not at all. That's what you guys can give.
Right. And
go ahead.
Go ahead, Joanne. Go ahead, Joanne, and then we'll let Michelle go.
And I agree. And the phone calls, people, the phone calls that came in, people were like, I didn't even understand it. And there were a lot of people who were scared. And don't get me wrong, there are, a lot of people who needed the forbearance just to save their houses. So I think, but then again, I have also spoken to a handful of people, maybe 2 handfuls of people, who were like, oh, I just thought it was, not having to pay my mortgage or whatever. It's like, no, this is what's going to happen at the end. And I still think, I won't even mention any, large mortgage companies, but I still don't think that they have a handle on what's happening, because I'm seeing it in my little office in Wallingford, Connecticut. I'm getting people come across my desk that the clients don't know. You call the mortgage company, they don't know, so it's definitely going to be an interesting time going forward, I think.
Yes. Go ahead, Michelle.
Oh, I was just going to say, with those live videos, they're so great at portraying the passion that you have for that subject. Like, you can write something, you can throw up a little video, you can write an ebook and email it to somebody. But when you're on a live video and you're like, hey, I need you to listen to me, this is important. I mean, people are like, oh, wait, what is she talking about? If you put that in writing and print, they're like, oh my gosh, she's screaming about something else about mortgages, So the live videos for that, I think, are just such a perfect idea, Joanne.
Thank you.
Totally agree. Okay, so now I want to know, as here we are, it's the very first week of 2021. So I actually want to ask each one of you, what are some of your plans for 21? What do you envision, and what are you working on as we start this fresh new year? And listen, they're saying rates are going to continue to be low. Purchases are going to continue to, lots of people purchasing homes in 21. So what are you guys working on as we start this new year? Ashley.
I think just staying ahead of the game, like Michelle's trying to do, hire people, make sure that we have processes in line, just so that we're not all surviving, we can thrive.
I think that's a good plan.
Solid and continuing being efficient and making sure that every client feels like your only client, really. So.
Love that. All right, Joanne, what's the plan for 21?
So I did spend a little time this weekend writing out some goals. One of my goals, I did receive a package, the CMA package, to become a certified mortgage advisor. So I have it. now I have to do it. That is one of my goals. Also, I made an appointment tomorrow to become more efficient with HomeBot because I really do think it's amazing. I have it, it's working, it's paid for itself 10 times over, but I definitely need to be more efficient. And as you guys know from the last phone call that we had, I desperately need to hire an assistant. I'm behind the 8 ball on that. I don't know exactly what I need, but I'm starting to interview tomorrow, so I'm excited about that. And like Ashley said, definitely thriving instead of surviving. I think that that's important, and to spend more time working on my Florida business so I can do both.
Oh, that's great. Well, that's a lot of exciting goals for 21. We look forward to watching your progression with all of that. All right, Michelle, what's the plan? We know Michelle literally is not reaching out to her social media because she has so much business. So I would assume, so you're growing your team. I think you've already started to grow your team, right? What else are you working on?
That becoming more efficient with the team, taking some of the little menial tasks off of my plate and putting it on theirs that they can handle so that I can do more stuff on social media. And then just starting to get a little bit more, trying to keep stuff really hyper local. So whenever I'm getting a referral in, like I'm putting in some new places, like I'm sending thank you cards to the referral that sent them. I'm also sending it one step farther and going back to the person that sent that person. And I'm not necessarily naming names, but just like, hey, you referred, a borrower to me and they referred someone else. Just want to say thank you for thinking of MS Lending. Little things like that. Starting to implement more little small personal touches into the system. And I think this last year we were just kind of flying by the seat of our pants, trying to make everybody feel special and loved and cared about, and also just trying to get as much closed and done as we could. So this year, I'm really wanting to zero in on the actual process. I want everybody's process to be the same, from start to finish, lots of small personal touches that create that referral business down the road. So
that is wonderful. And we all know that's another thing that we're very good at is those personal touches. So we certainly just have to continue to grow that, continuing to dive into it. And it's interesting. Just let it flow naturally. You know what I mean? Sometimes we second guess ourselves and we're kind of like, oh, well, I don't know if this is a good idea. Believe me, if you came up with it, it's a great idea because it's natural to you. So just let it flow. And we prove time and time again, every week we do one of these. There's no one way. Every one of us can do it different and still get to the same point of helping families and being successful. So just keep being you, keep doing what comes natural because you're all amazing. And I know you're going to have a very successful year. All right, ladies, thank you so much for joining me today. I truly appreciate it. And thanks for kicking this off. And next week, we have 3 originators who are going to discuss how to differentiate yourself by offering unique programs and products. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see everyone next week. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.